Greetings YouTube, and welcome to my sketchbook. Now there's a story behind this design. This is a mace, wooden handle. This whole thing up here is designed to do something strange. Because this isn't just a mace, this is a pepper mill. Yes, this is a combat pepper mill. This is what it looks like from the top. These two holes are for this wrench. And there's the design what the wrench looks like. So you could loosen this and fill it with pepper. The idea was that you would grind, it would fill a small container in here, then you could flick it at an enemy, throwing pepper in their face. In addition, you could actually use the pepper grinder to grind pepper for cooking. It was carried by a gnome who had a great skill in cooking, but wanted a weapon that he could use that might be able to baffle the enemy with little clouds of ground pepper. It was a weird request, but I loved the idea. The person that got it was very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. I think it came out well. Here we have kind of an elephant hook from India. The name of that escapes me at the moment, but I wanted to do a blader, kind of a more ornate upper end version of this, ornamental kind of thing. Here we have a pick with a large carnivore's tooth, so some fantasy monster, and they've turned that tooth into a weapon. And I quite like that. I think I did a nice job on the wrapping. I got quite good at wrapping near the end of my drawing career. Now this is actually nothing to do with me. As you can tell, it's a really good organic drawing. My friend Scott Wegner, who is the artist of Atomic Robo, did this sketch because we were discussing design ideas, and I designed a couple of things for him over the years. I'll probably get to them eventually. And he was just some ideas he was playing with, and this is the sketch he did to go with this character. And it's beautiful. It really is. Far better than anything I could ever do. And I have some original art by Scott Wegner, which is kind of cool. Here we have another weapon designed purely for the Klingons, and it's a one-handed hand blade. They're maybe a little on the thin side, but I think it might work. Good at catching things as well. You can use it as a blade catch and lock something in place. Here we have a double weapon, a wooden mace head on this end, and then an inward curving blade on this one. I don't know what inspired me to do that one. It was kind of interesting, and I really like the way the mace head came out. That's quite usable. Here we have a rifle stock war club, or a version of a rifle stock war club with three blades, one large, two small. This would be very effective, and of course based on the Native American rifle stock clubs. Now this one has an extending shaft, so the shaft actually gets longer, so it goes from being a battle axe to a great axe, and the blade spins, because it uses some magical force. It was based on a book, I guess somebody read, and they wanted illustrations. So he read me, or gave me the description of what the weapon looked like. Then I filled in this, and I believe someone did a digital version of this for me at one point. Here we have a heavy dagger. I really like the way this came out. I mean, this semi-precious stone handle, it's just heavy, ornate dagger. I really like the way this blade came out. Here we have a double sword, obviously elven, if you can tell from some of the stylistic things I've come up with, and I really like the way this came up, and again in thirds to make it somewhat believable that you could actually use it without hurting yourself. And these swells here are to help keep your hands from, and of course these choils would not be sharpened. Here we have a double spear, and I was going for an angular ritualistic look to it, but I think I quite like how it came out. Here we have an unusual scalloped spearhead, and I think this is kind of cool. I really do. Because if you made it thick enough, it would be functional, and it would still have that very strange aesthetic. Here we have a sword inspired by the double sword down here, or spear, depends how you want to look at it. And I quite like the way that one came out. It's a little odd, but I think it might fix some cultural vibe. Here we have a large battle axe in. I didn't quite get those angles right. This angle in here isn't quite right. It's just not there. You know what I mean? Didn't quite get it. Now, however, I really like this one. The short sword, solid counterweight. Made a little gem in there for fun. Nice simple blade with a blood runnel. And I think I really did an excellent job with that one, whereas I failed on the axe sitting on the same page. Okay, here we have a heavy spear, and sword. Now these were designed for a character. He wanted a matching set. So this is the sword the character carried, and then this is the spear that he carried as well. He wanted to have a similar stylistic element to them, so that's what I did for him. Here we have a harpoon head. The shaft is not shown here, and I really just huge bladed harpoon. This is something you hunt dragons with, folks. Here we have an over-the-top great axe, but I kind of like it. This whole design, you can grab it up here, you can swing it down here, so you can really choke up on it for closer work. I really like that. Here we have another kind of a variation on a kind of a fusion of Elven, maybe Chinese design on this one, and I quite like how I came up with this. I love the way the handle swells, the little butt cap in here, this guard, and just I really like the overall look on that. This is a usable design. I think that someone would really enjoy using that if they were into martial arts. Here we have another heavy hand blade. So this goes along your forearm like this. So it's all about slashing and cutting and blocking, of course, inspired by a tonfa. Here we have a heavy wrench, which is designed as a backup weapon and a tool. So you've got a pry bar here and a big wrench here. Obviously something carried by a dwarf. Here we have a glaive, sort of a glaive with a big hook, big curve. I don't think this section in here is necessarily strong enough to pull this off. I think I should have put the proportions down a little bit, but I still kind of like the aesthetic. Here we have a big, heavy sword, all about the slashing, and there's no point on this thing at all. It's kind of inspired by a real-world executioner's sword, almost a naginata in some ways, because the blade and the handle are almost the same length. Here we go with a kind of a fantasy Chinese fusion. So you have this kind of moon crescent blade in here, big slashing blade here, and a smaller one here. Here we have a fantasy cutlass. Cutler's different. Cutlass. And this is just awesome. I really like the way this came out. In retrospect, I might have put a curve in here. I may have done that. Maybe not, because that line here may work for me, but I like the overall look, and I think that fits well into like a fantasy pirate. Here we have something inspired by a bow and these big military forks. I think I needed to make them thicker. Shorter would have been better. I made them too large, but it's a battle staff because there's a heavy weight on this end, so you could use it both as in either end. Now this one is based on an actual real-world Native American weapon from the Pacific Northwest. The weapon I saw actually had stone blades, but this was the same configuration, and it did have an inset with the carving in it, so I put the same thing. No, well, not the same carving, but the same idea. But I just used steel blades instead, and this would be hideously effective. That would be very damaging in combat. But it's based on a real-world item that I have somewhere referenced in my collection of weapon reference books. Here we have a big, heavy double axe with back hooks. So just monstrously huge, something suitable to an orc. Here we have big curvy knife with a small hook on the end. Again, not the most practical thing in the world, but usable and functional for like a fantasy assassin, you know what I mean? Here we have a heavy throwing spear, so heavy head. It's got fletchings in here designed to be thrown, so heavy javelin, something like that. Here we have a hand axe, and if I had made this half the length, it would be perfect. This is just too long. This is good for this shaft, and that's good. This is too long. But I like this part of it quite well, and I think I did a good execution as far as the drawing is concerned. I just don't have the proportions correct. Here we have a heavy two-handed mace, studs, and a point. This is a section of wood, so it's still very heavy, a lot of mass, but it's not all metal, and it's got a counterweight down here. Here we have another one of those kind of two-handed glaives, allowing a number of different grips for something for orcs, ogres, and Klingons. Here we have kind of an elven saber. I really like this design. I believe this was a request someone made to me, and I really like the way it came out. Here we have this weird two-handed weapon, double-ended. It's too thin, but the idea is kind of cool, I think. And here we have a long, curvy, inward curving blade. I think that's called a shotal. I could be wrong, but I like the design, and I think I executed it well. And this would be actually a two-handed weapon because this is a very big blade. But I kind of like the way I was able to execute this.